what it takes to beat anybody that's quick. A cool head, I guess. It's better to be a good human being than a dirty player. To learn what the weak points are from that other guy, and to, I guess, start playing the same game and just push the pressure he's putting on you to push it back on him.
Fox Sports Net brings you coverage of Formula One racing, the Grand Prix of Luxembourg from the Nürburgring in Nürburgring, Germany. The demanding 13-turn course will play host to the penultimate round of the World Championship for 1998, with Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen knotted at 80 points in the chase for the World Championship. Welcome to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Luxembourg, round 15 in the championship. And we begin our Toyota pre-race as Michael Schumacher works his way around into his grid position, which will be, of course, front row, shared with his Ferrari teammate Eddie Irvine. Hello, everybody. I'm Mike Joy. I'm joined by five-time winner of the 24-hour Le Mans and the big winner at the Goodwood Festival of Speed last weekend, Derek Bell. What a great fun that must have been.
Yes, it was great fun, but you needn't go on about it, Mike. In comparison to this, it's nothing, but it's great to be here again, and it's going to be a wonderful race, that's for sure.
Well, let's join one of the world's ranking Formula One journalist, Peter Windsor. And Peter, the story of this week has to be driver changes, especially at Williams.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, the news here is that Winfield Williams have confirmed what we've actually suspected for the last couple of weeks, which is that Alex Zanardi and Ralf Schumacher will be driving for them, not only next year, but also in 2000 at least, when, of course, they'll have BMW power. That'll be a very, very interesting new project. Also, Williams news, Chip Ganassi looks as if he's coming over to Europe next week to watch Zanardi's first test in a Williams at Barcelona, and also to watch Juan Pablo Montoya, the regular Williams test driver, who is tipped to take Zanardi's place in the Ganassi IndyCar team next year. Pedro Diniz on the move from Arrows to Sauber, taking with him a lot of money, $16 million worth of sponsorship to Sauber, which of course is bad news for Arrows. On top of that, Arrows have got problems with their new engineer Gary Anderson. He's been with the team 5 weeks, but now looks as if he's talking to Stewart and will be joining Stewart and not Arrows as suspected. Of course, this race really, though, is about the championship. Ferrari and McLaren both have brought 4 cars. McLaren, who can clinch the championship here, have been concentrating on reliability, a subject we'll touch upon very soon. Ferrari, at this circuit with its chicanes and its long constant radius corners, have 4 short wheelbase cars here. Back to you.
Thanks, Peter. A number of cars came around to form up the grid, went back into the pits, into the garage to make a change, and it still looks a little damp there, Derek.
Yeah, well, Michael Schumacher often does that. He'll be one of the last to decide to go around and settle on the grid. They have 15 minutes in which to do this. These guys, they cannot complete a whole lap. They must come in, or else they can go in the pits, one or the other.
This season has been dominated by Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher. 6 wins apiece. If they remain tied in points and wins, the championship is decided by second-place finishes, where Hakkinen has 2 and Schumacher 1. They'll keep going until they find a tiebreaker. Only 2 other drivers have found the top of the podium this season, David Coulthard at San Marino and Damon Hill in Belgium. 2 weeks ago, the Grand Prix of Italy was, boy, a Ferrari festival, Derek.
It certainly was, and this flag certainly showed prominently there, but it was Mick Jagger was strolling around the paddock area pits, having a look around at some motor racing, but it was the McLarens that went out and dominated the start, and we all thought, oh no, here we go again. But poor old David Coulthard, his lack is still bad. And it was Hakkinen, when he saw the smoke and steam of David, he backed off, and it was Michael Schumacher that nipped through and took that lead from Mika. Something he shouldn't have done, something that intent on winning the World Championship wouldn't do. But Mika then loses his brakes. Unbeknown to him, the front brake pads have gone, and from there on in, of course, he only has rear brakes, and Eddie Irvine comes through to get a fine second place for Ferrari behind Michael. Ralf Schumacher, Michael's brother, having a wonderful race, and he even got on the podium. First time there's been 2 brothers on the podium of a Grand Prix in the history of motor racing, but was Michael happy or what?
Well, that tied him with Mika Hakkinen for the Drivers' Championship at 80 points. David Coulthard has Eddie Irvine beginning to fill up his mirrors. They're just 10 points apart for third, and Jacques Villeneuve is fifth. Now, McLaren can wrap up the Constructors' Championship today if they leave the Nürburgring 16 points ahead of Ferrari. They are 10 points ahead now. Look at Williams, Benetton, and Jordan continuing to fight it out for third place in the Constructors' Championship. Well, Michael Schumacher is tied with Mika Hakkinen, but the Schumacher that everybody's been talking about after Italy in these last few races is Ralph.
Yeah, well, Ralph's only 24 years old, and he's been racing only 7 years. But he's done a tremendous job. Of course, being under the shadow of his brother Michael has been difficult for him, but it was Eddie Jordan that picked him up. He's always good at picking up young stars, picks him up, sticks him in a Grand Prix in '97, and he finished third in only his third Grand Prix in the Argentine Grand Prix. So he did pretty darn well early on.
Well, the way he started the season, the first 5 races, he failed to complete a single lap in any of them. I was wondering.
Well, we all were, and of course then suddenly it all comes together. Jordan starts to work, and he starts to work, and everybody wants him. So what does he do? He decides he's going to go to Williams, and I don't blame him for doing that. He's going to join Zanardi. Well, what a pair, what a couple of personalities to contend with, but I'm sure Frank Williams can handle 2 very hardened racers. But there was much intrigue over his departure from Jordan, but let's look at him in one-track mind.
Well, in the first point, it wasn't an easy decision because I was pretty happy in Jordan's, but at the end I got an offer which I found just better and better for my future. So I'm very happy for that offer, and I took it. When I came to Formula One, and you looked up to the best teams, you always thought, okay, that's your target, to be one day a Williams driver and to win races with them. And now it's the truth. So I hope that we come back to this performance then for the next few years when I'm there. There's a German manufacturer, and that's a fact which I like the most somehow, because I think that they for sure come into Formula One to win races, and they have a big motivation. So have I, and the Team Williams as well. So I think it's a good combination. Honestly, my mind is totally at Jordan at the moment. I mean, I'm with Williams for 1999, or start testing maybe a bit earlier, but in the moment I really don't think about it, honestly, and I hope that I finish off the season with winner Jordan. That would be great for us.
Ralf Schumacher, his older brother Michael, has gone back around to form up on the grid once again, and again gone to the pit lane, conferred with his Ferrari engineers. They did not touch the car, but sent him back out again, so he's going to take another exploratory lap. As Derek pointed out, he's got 15 minutes to fill into his grid position, and has made another stop there. Well, we saw Mick Jagger in Italy, and the glitterari abound even here in Germany. British pop star Chris Rea is here as guest of Eddie Jordan, and let's see here. Now, is Eddie putting us on or what?
Hi, this is Eddie Jordan, the drummer of the Chris Rea Band. Incidentally, I have a second job, which happens to be Jordan Grand Prix. Stay with us, the Nürburgring.
Our Toyota pre-race continues. You know, Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher, that's the focus of this World Championship chase, but all the way back, even here to the Minardis, there are stories of drivers who are looking and perhaps changing for next year. Perhaps changing teams, perhaps changing teammates. Peter?
That's right, guys. Teammates are the men of this race, really. Eddie Irvine and David Coulthard have got very important roles to play in the World Championship. But teammates, of course, also mean guys like Pedro Diniz. Pedro, nice to see you. You have a very interesting career. You've done 2 very, very good years with Arrows. You've brought a lot of sponsorship to that team, and you've proved you're very, very quick. Where are you at now in your career?
Well, I'm at a point that I need to have a competitive car, really. It's pretty difficult when you're on the back of the grid. You can be very quick and beat your teammate, but you cannot prove anything on the back of the grid.
And being able to bring and raise sponsorship as you do probably is as much a handicap as it is a help. I mean, it has been a help early on in your career, but it's not the image you want, and it doesn't actually help you in terms of the way people think about you.
Having sponsorship that back me up, I think it's not a bad thing. I think I proved my point here. I've been pretty competitive in front of Damon Hill and with Mika Salo and Panis, very highly rated drivers. So it's pretty, I think people that still saying that they don't want to see, really.
When are you going to announce your plans for next year?
We're still negotiating. Still, maybe going to stay on Narrows. Maybe going to go to other team.
Well, I'm going to go for the Sauber motorhome for a coffee. They do very good coffee there, apparently. It's Brazilian, I think. Back to you.
That's not a tip, is it, Peter? Michael Schumacher has just pulled into his grid position. Mechanics swarm around his Ferrari after a couple of stops in the pits. Eddie Irvine, his teammate, and who will share the front row today, is not yet in grid position. But Derek, qualifying was a thriller. 9 different drivers had the provisional pole at one time or another.
It was a most exciting qualifying, I must admit, but under that wonderful Schloss, the castle in the middle of Nürburgring, it was Jacques Villeneuve that went out right at the beginning, and he set a very, very fast pace. Michael chasing him, but Michael loses it and says, nothing much, I just lost it a bit under braking, nothing to worry about. Goes back to his pit to sort it out and come out again and set up some much quicker times, but it was his brother Ralph that we expected great things from this weekend. In fact, he did get up there right at the front, but you can see a lot of push, a lot of understeer there, and he ended up being 6th place on the grid. I'm sure he'd like to have been higher, but great result nonetheless. But Michael Schumacher went out and he actually shattered the quickest time by over a second, and for a long time he was at the front of the grid by over a second. Eddie Irvine comes out then and he surprises even Mika Hakkinen, and he gets 2nd position on the grid, the first time ever for Eddie Irvine on the front row of the grid. Mika Hakkinen tries, he finds 4th, 5th, 5/10, but it wasn't enough to beat this man Schumacher. Here he is diving through the chicane, all the wheels clattering around as he goes through there on his way to a wonderfully quick lap.
So Michael Schumacher has won the pole for the 2nd time this season, and Eddie Irvine, with his best ever qualifying effort, will share the front row with Schumacher today. Well, who will win the World Championship? Peter, running along, caught up with a fellow who knows how to win it and who could win it. Peter?
Who better to ask than Damon Hill about the outcome of the World Championship this year? What do you think is going to happen, Damon?
Well, I'm afraid you might pick the wrong person, because I don't know. I think it's 50-50. I think it's very difficult at this stage to tell for sure.
But if you were Mika Hakkinen, first of all, what would your tactics be here?
My tactics would be to do exactly what he's done and just to dominate, leave everyone behind.
You've raced very closely with Michael and beaten him. What's the way to beat him?
Exactly what I just said. You know, get out in front, stay out in front, control it from the front, and that's just all you can do.
Let's hope they do it as well as Damon did. Back to you.
Damon Hill, a once and perhaps future world champion. Well, the grid just about fully formed up now as our Toyota pre-race continues, and we count down to the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Michael Schumacher, pole sitter there. A little chilly today. Dons a coat and gets ready to roll. Why? How Formula One racing has changed here at the Nürburgring. We've got some great historic footage to show you. Front-engine cars from the 50s on to mid-engine cars at the turn of the decade. Jim Clark shows how it's done, winning here at the Nürburgring in '65 for Lotus. The forecast indicated it could be a day much like this one in 1968 when Jackie Stewart scored his first of 3 Nürburgring wins. 1968, 71, and 73 found the wee Scot at the top of the podium. It has dried up here at the Nürburgring today for the Grand Prix of Luxembourg, a chilly 52 degrees, though right there as our Toyota pre-race continues for the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Well, this season started looking like McLaren Mercedes would thoroughly dominate, but troubles in the last few races, like Mika Hakkinen's brake problem one race ago, have kind of got us wondering, have Ferrari caught them up, Peter, or has McLaren fallen back somewhat?
Team McLaren Mercedes sounds brilliant, and they were brilliant. For a while they could do nothing wrong. What's happened recently? Mika Hakkinen had the problem in Hungary, we well know about that, and then at Monza both drivers had a problem. Catastrophic engine failure on David Coulthard's car and a brake problem on Mika Hakkinen's car. Is it the championship? Is it the stress of trying to compete with Ferrari? We asked Ron Dennis.
It's just part of Formula One, and certainly the failures aren't what we planned for, and we are extremely meticulous about preparation. The amount of research that went into our braking system that failed in Monza, when you look at it, you just can't believe that these things can happen, but they do.
Of course, engine reliability is something else. Miles and miles and miles are required, but still the engines fail. Why does this happen? We spoke to Mario Ilian, whose Ilmor company works very closely with Mercedes to provide the engines that McLaren use.
we had a lot of damage on this particular engine, and it's rather difficult to pinpoint exactly what the cause of the problem was. We have some ideas, speculation what it could have been, and we have made some changes, and we tested last week over 2,000 kilometers with some modifications to the engine, and that has been very reliable, and we haven't seen the problems.
Have McLaren Mercedes found reliability? Let's find out. Back to you.
Well, it's very realistic. I thought Ron Dennis there, very calm and composed, but nonetheless they have had some problems. And what amazes me is they can have that blow-up that they had the other day at Monza, and then they can go and do 2,000 test miles with what they think was the modification done to the engine, and it obviously now works.
And what also amazes me is that Ferrari, Michael Schumacher, has had but one failure the entire season. I mean, that's quite a turnaround.
Well, I mean, for Ferrari, it's unbelievable that they should have such a successful time, and that must be putting a lot of pressure on Hakkinen and, of course, David Coulthard.
How tight have the screws turned on Mika Hakkinen, with Michael Schumacher now tying him for the World Championship lead with just 2 races to go? Let's get dialed in with the man who's led the series most all season, Mika Hakkinen.
I went to test last week Friday, only just one day, manifold, and the team just gave me some time off and just relax and concentrate on training and that's it. And I feel so good. I really feel a bit relaxed and looking forward to come here and do the race here. I've been Formula One such many years. I've been so many years in a bad situation. I mean, what's happening at the moment is just unbelievable and it's so fun. And it's really going well, and I mean there is certain pressure all the time. Everybody expects you to win, and yourself expecting yourself to win, and you don't want to lose. So nobody doesn't want to lose end of the day. But in reality, I think you can look after this season. We've been working very hard and really racing hard. And the best finish of my career in Formula One probably has been 4th or 5th. So if I finish 2nd this year, it's not too bad. But I'm just enjoying this situation, and I know the future only gonna be even better. So I'm not too stressed about it. So far, racing with Michael has been really good. I think I have a high respect for Michael for his talent, and Michael has a respect for me. And I think it works really well that way. And there is no point to start making any fights with the words because we know both of us doesn't help anything. We are not going to be affected at all by words.
Mika Hakkinen set to try to open up a lead once again on Michael Schumacher. There's David Richards, who a moment ago was chatting with David Coulthard, who looked pretty relaxed. Giancarlo Fisichella set to go from 4th position today.
Yeah, it's very good. I mean, to see that car doing so well.
We're at the Nürburgring for the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. That is not Jacques Villeneuve's newest hairstyle. Maybe next week. Hakkinen and Coulthard, Hakkinen, and Schumacher tied for the World Championship. Nice hair. We'll be right back with the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Our Toyota pre-race continues here at the Nürburgring as we get close to the start of the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. And this championship hangs in the balance. Michael Schumacher, Mika Hakkinen, knotted at 80 points apiece. Eddie Irvine's Ferrari also is in position, so the grid is formed up, Derek, and we're about set to go.
Yeah, well, this is going to be quite something for Eddie to be just looking at that open bit of track. He said he normally has to gauge how he starts by the people in front. He's going to be lost today because there's nobody in front.
Never been on the front row.
Oh, there's the singer, I wish I could remember his name, a British singer, standing there talking to Willy Webber, who's Michael Schumacher's team manager and sort of manager generally, takes Mr. 10%.
Right. 7 minutes to a start. Ferrari on the front row, McLaren back in 3rd and 5th on the grid. The first ever race at the new Nürburgring was not Formula One. It was a sports car race, and it was won by Derek Bell and Stefan Belloff in a Porsche 956. So who better to tell us about this circuit and the quick way around?
The trouble is I don't like it. The only one I like was the 14-mile one, but it's a great circuit nonetheless. Very, very fast circuit. It's a medium downforce circuit, really, and it has a lot of understeer problems because of the long corners. We're riding with Michael Schumacher under those wonderful laps, and just so immaculate the man is as he sweeps his way through the Castrol S, working his way up to 170 miles an hour down into the Ford curve complex. Slight downhill left-hander. As you can see, it's a very, very smooth circuit. Often they lock the right-hand front wheel as they dip into that second part of the Ford curve, work their way downhill up to 180 miles an hour, and severe braking, pulling 3.6 G under deceleration as they come in here. Often, as I say, you'll see that right front braking locking up as they go in there. Vital to get out of this Dunlop curve because it's a very fast 180-mile section. I'm putting 150, 160 as we watch him right now on his way uphill towards the RTL curve. Tricky corner as you come through there because it leads again onto this very fast 185, 190 mile section. You can see it sweeping through this long, flat-out right-hander. The drivers like this circuit. It's a very demanding circuit, but as we come up here, we're in a camera position. If we were actually level with his helmet, you cannot see the chicane as you come up. Very difficult corner to flick the car through. Easy to overshoot it and touch the walls of the curbs as they go through. Works his way in the Coca-Cola curve out onto the pit straight. Let's go down for some comments from David Coulthard and others.
Well, this circuit is what we class as really a front-end track. There's a lot of long corners here, so it's very important to get the front tyre working well. If you start to green the front tyre or have a lot of understeer, then you can lose half a second a lap quite easily on this type of track.
Well, I mean, I must say Castrol S, the first chicane was last year the main point, so I hope this year we all come around it. Then Ford corner is always a bit understeery, so is Dunlop, and both of those corners tend to destroy your front wheels because you lock the front wheels.
There is a lot of fast changing direction, and to get the line I need to have a very good front end.
Well, it's Hakkinen versus Schumacher, which means McLaren versus Ferrari, which means Bridgestone versus Goodyear for the World Championship. Here is how the grid forms up today. The Ferraris have the front row.
Well, it's certainly the first time we've had the two Ferraris on the front row since Spa, Belgian Grand Prix 95. Michael Schumacher and Eddie Irvine. What a great day for Eddie to be on the front row next to his teammate.
Row number 2, Mika Hakkinen for McLaren Mercedes, and Giancarlo Fisichella with a Benetton, who thought if he had just a little bit more on that last flying lap, he might be higher placed.
Think how Mika feels. He wants to be on the front row, and it's not a good place to be. He was on the front row last year. He's on the second row this.
In row 3, David Coulthard was one of a number of Bridgestone drivers who said the sets of tires varied from one run to another. He's back in 7th there with Ralf Schumacher.
Yeah, Ralf, I know, did a great job. David must be very disappointed. He had lots of problems with this understeer and push.
In row 4, Heinz-Harald Frentzen had trouble with the balance of his car, oversteer versus understeer, and Alexander Wurz is 8th.
But of course, Heinz-Harald, in fact, still pulled away ahead of his man, of Jacques Villeneuve, so that was good for Heinz-Harald.
You'll find Villeneuve right behind in row 5. He scored his first Grand Prix win here in 1996, backed it up last year. Damon Hill suffering from a bad cold this weekend.
Yeah, and he had a few moments off the road yesterday, lost time. That couldn't have done him any good.
Jean Alesi will be history's 15th Grand Prix driver to start his 150th race, and Rubens Barrichello there in row 6.
Yes, well, it's good to see the Ford up there. It's good to see Jackie Stewart's team actually getting it together at last, but they do have this latest spec engine, and it's working well for them.
Back in the 7th row, Johnny Herbert in the Sauber fighting understeer during qualifying, and Jarno Trulli there in the Prost. He had problems with tires, again varying sets of tires back and forth. Row number 8, Olivier Panis is in the Prost, and Mika Salo was the fastest in the speed trap, but that was no downforce, and he had understeering problems. Pedro Diniz had a hydraulic leak, had to go to the T car for the second half of qualifying. Jos Verstappen had trouble getting his car balanced. Row 10. Now we get into the pay-to-play drivers. Takagi in the Tyrrell, Nakano in the Minardi, and row 11. Esteban Tuero was happy with his qualifying run in the Minardi. Ricardo Rosset had engine trouble with his Tyrrell, but nonetheless made it within the 107% so of the pole sitter, so he is on the grid. The tie for the championship. Can it be broken today, and can Hakkinen clinch? We're about to find out with the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Stay with us. Welcome back to our Toyota pre-race for the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor. That was Chris de Burgh, the singer there on the starting grid. Our musicologist.
I knew you knew who it was.
I did. Somebody in my ear knew who it was, but nonetheless settles that. McLaren last won the Drivers' Championship 1991 with Ayrton Senna. They won the Constructors' Championship that same year. Ferrari's last title. Drivers' Championship, Jody Scheckter, 1979, and the Constructors' title in 1983. So it's been a long time for both of these constructors. Today it is 53 degrees, 57 degrees on track, a cool day, heavy air, 94% humidity, and a better than 50% chance of rain. One driver, Nakano, I believe, came to the grid with wet tires.
Well, he wasn't too sure on back there. It could be raining by the time he gets around.
There, looks like everybody's set up on dries. Driver Championship points, Mika Hakkinen and Michael Schumacher at 80. Eddie Irvine getting within sight of David Coulthard for third. Jacques Villeneuve, Alexander Bertz, Damon Hill tied at 17 points apiece.
Well, they're trying to keep those tires up to temperature, as you can see them weaving about there. As we well know, there can be no overtaking on this lap, as much as some of them would like to have a bit of a go. But Schumacher and Irvine, what a wonderful sight actually in Germany to have two Ferraris on the front row, but of course with a German driver in. And the German cars, the McLaren Mercedes, are on the second and third rows. Not exactly what some of the fans would like, but I believe the fans are going more for Michael Schumacher today than they are for those McLaren Mercedes cars.
Well, the weather, Derek, could certainly be a factor. If it rains, that will, of course, play into Schumacher's favor. Front tire wear could be a question as to whether teams have traded off low drag for downforce.
Well, that's it too, but you do need quite a lot of it. I know it's a medium downforce circuit, but my goodness, you need downforce. And if it gets damp, you certainly need it. And of course, if you do get slight push in the car, well, it does destroy those front tires. Remember, they have got the 3 grooves in for next year, but 3 grooves at the moment. And of course, that means that you can scrub off a bit more rubber than maybe you'd like.
And everybody in the McLaren Mercedes pit will hold their breath until lap 43. Recall last year that one of their cars blew up on lap 42 and the other 1 lap later. Tough day for McLaren Mercedes here 1 year ago. This is the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. It is held in Germany. There are no permanent race circuits in the Duchy of Luxembourg. Each country is allowed to hold 1 Grand Prix, so for many years, the last few years, this has been the Grand Prix of Europe, so-called. Kind of gives the Schumacher faithful a second chance to see their favorite son as he lines up today on pole.
Well, of course, we're going to have to wait and just see just what Schumacher can do here. Ferraris have not had good starts in the last few races. McLaren's have had awesome starts. Michael Schumacher's been testing these starts in Italy and other places in the last couple of weeks, so let's see if it all worked for them.
And the McLaren starts have been so good, there's been accusations of traction control. They have just rocketed off the line. There is Hakkinen in third and Coulthard in fifth. Along the right side of your screen, right behind Michael Schumacher. We're set for the start of the Grand Prix of Luxembourg.
Copybook start, Michael. You can't beat that one. Eddie Irvine, I think, could well be in the lead, though. He managed to get down the inside of Michael. And the 2 McLarens following, along with Fisichella and Wirtz. Look at Wirtz come round the outside. So rather surprised, Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
Great start for Wirtz. Problems for both the Williams. There's Frentzen falling into line, and further back, Villeneuve.
Yeah, trapped by the 2 Jordans. And Barry Kello well up there.
Damon Hill still caught outside, unable to get online. And now Damon is going to drop in 10th position.
Hark at the crowd roaring as they come down to the Dunlop curve. 2 Ferraris, what a wonderful sight. 2 Ferraris, 2 McLaren Mercedes. These are the contestants for the World Championship. And Eddie Irvine just giving his best. Good old Eddie. This is an amazing time for him. The first time he's led a Grand Prix from the start in his life.
So Fisichella dropped from 5th to 6th on the start. Ralf Schumacher 7th, and Frentzen Also dropped a number of spots, but probably the best start of all was Alexander Wirtz.
Oh, Eddie got it all wrong, and Michael's going to go by on the inside. Eddie got it wrong going across the curbs. Michael's got to go by. He mustn't lose momentum. Now Eddie's going to do his team job, and that is to keep those two McLarens at bay. But Eddie must not make a mistake like that again. Overzealousness going through one of the corners to allow anybody else through. Coulthard's playing the position he's best at being, and that's holding off the rest. But Häkkinen having a look down the inside of Eddie, just worrying Eddie, but Eddie's head no way sunshine. And of course, for sure, is Eddie Irvine is not going to give way to either of those fellas behind, wittingly or volunteeringly. That is for certain.
And folks, if you're thinking that that was a strategy move by Ferrari, forget it. Not on the first lap of this race. Now, can Schumacher get away?
Well, he's inching away now, and this is Schumacher. You'll see him at his best for a few laps. Remember, we don't quite know what the strategy is, whether they'll do 2 or 3 stops. I think they'll probably go for 2, but it really depends on if Michael can get away without chewing his tires up too much. We already have a problem here with one of the Minardis. He's in, Tuero in, but that won't be a disappointment for the rest of the guys because they won't have one less car to lap. Pity for Minardi, though, because he has Works Ford engines next year, or virtually Works engines, and that's really an upward move for Minardi, who is a very serious contender.
That's Frentzen behind the two Benettons, then Ralf Schumacher, then Jacques Villeneuve, then Damon Hill. So the Williams and the Jordans split up there for 7th through 10th.
What Eddie has to do is he has to let Michael get away, but at the same time has to be just enough to hinder Mika Häkkinen getting up a good lap time, but at the same time not allowing him to get too close to whip by him.
Hey, tread cam, where have we seen that before?
Guess where?
Yeah. 1.3 seconds is Schumacher's advantage. On a track that was damp this morning. Dry for practice, then a bit of a rain and damp. And now pretty dry once again, but 94% humidity and the threat of rain. 67 laps is the scheduled distance.
Michael just inching away already. He doesn't want to slide that car too much. He's got to be absolutely immaculate. Eddie's doing probably the best he could possibly do, but at the same time he's doing the perfect job. He's holding Häkkinen up, and what Michael has to do or wants to do is to get like a nice 16, 17 to 20 second buffer. So if he goes for a pit stop at any time, he can do so and get out and still be in the lead of the race, and that's what he will be working at. We've seen this in other races this year.
Now, I was impressed with the start by both the Ferraris. The last few races, we've seen a good bit of wheel spin from them, and they've been taken advantage of. Not so today.
No, they did a copybook start, absolutely immaculate. 2.8 seconds between Michael and Häkkinen. That's just what Schumacher needs as he's trying to get this leader well ahead of the Häkkinen and the David Coulthard McLarens.
If Schumacher wins this race and Häkkinen fails to score points, then they will go to Japan 10 points apart. And the same situation is here. Should Häkkinen win in Japan and Schumacher fail to score points, Häkkinen would be world champion based on more second-place finishes than Michael Schumacher. So even though the points are tied, it seems Schumacher, with a little brake lock there, is in a position of little to lose, everything to gain.
It's exactly what I was saying. They do lock that right inside brake up coming down into the second part of the Ford curve. There's a start from the rear view of the grid. Smoke coming off, but look at that. Hardly any smoke, none at all off those leading cars. Michael has a great start, but he's a bit sluggish in that shift to second to third, and it's Eddie that goes by him.
Now watch Fisichella, third row. They get 3 wide. He gets notched, pipped for a spot there, and boy, there's Coulthard looking on Häkkinen, who I guess just did not get away quickly, and David pedals it so that his teammate has a clean run at the corner.
With two Benettons, though, they look so strong there, don't they? Oh, look, and of course it looks like Jacques Villeneuve got on the dirt too.
Well, only 2 wheels.
Look, Michael's got that. Eddie's getting a little bit ragged over those chicanes. These chicanes can be taken. Oh, he's overshot. Look, Wirtz has overshot the chicane. He didn't gain a position by it. I wonder if they will penalise him. Probably not, but they could think of giving him a little bit there. I don't know. Usually, if you gain a position, you lose something.
Now, Mika Häkkinen's last lap about a second slower than Schumacher's. So it's possible that Eddie Irvine is holding Häkkinen up. On the other hand, we don't know what kind of fuel load the McLarens may have compared to the Ferraris.
No, they may well have very full tanks and just going for a one stop. But judging by the tyre wear that everybody had, they're all running soft compounds, be it Goodyear or be it Bridgestone. They're all running the softer tyre, so who knows?
And we did see on the replay of the start the way Fisichella lost pit spot to Coulthard was Fizzy had a good bit of wheel spin on the start, where Coulthard, like Hakkinen and the front row Ferraris, got away cleanly. So Michael Schumacher dominates the Grand Prix of Luxembourg in these early laps, leading his Ferrari teammate Eddie Irvine. We'll be right back.
Michael there trying to build himself a cushion, and I don't think he's sandbagging too much at all.
No, I'm sorry, I meant he's sandbagging in the qualifying. Never mind, because I'll tell you, I'm trying to cover every eventuality in this race. There is a dark cloud building up.
How can you sandbag in qualifying?
Now, we had rain at 11:4.
Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Luxembourg, where Michael Schumacher continues to lead his Ferrari teammate Eddie Irvine. Every night on Fox Sports Net, it's Fox Sports News Prime Time. All the scores, highlights, and breaking stories for your hometown teams 7 nights a week. We're there with Fox Sports News Prime Time.
Look at that speed as you see Schumacher coming up the hill there, pulling 160 miles an hour. Boy, that was some speed as he came up through that lot.
3.2 seconds back to Eddie Irvine. Then there's Hakkinen.
4.8. Coulthard. It's about 4.8 from Michael to Hakkinen. It's just picking up a tenth or two every moment.
Esteban Tuero's early stop was to replace a drive shaft in the Minardi. So he hopes to get back out. Fisichella to Wirtz, 2.8 seconds. There they are. There's Alexander Wirtz. Back of them, Heitz Harald Frentzen. Battling one of the Jordans and pulling off is one of the Prosts.
Oh, and one of the Arrows is off as well. That's Denise's off, and I think the other one was Truly pulling off. I wouldn't swear to that. Difficult to tell these helmets.
Yes. You know, the new British-American team had proposed to run their 2 cars next year in different paint schemes representing different brands. And a meeting held yesterday, they were turned down.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. They also had mooted the fact that yellow flag for one of the cars that's pulled off. But of course, we also heard that they may well wanted to change the different color schemes for different tracks where their product was more marketable. Can you believe that? Nobody else has done that yet.
Well, I guess that's a possibility, but they were not allowed to have the 2 cars in different colors. They must look alike, confounding broadcasters around the globe. Well, Hakkinen has fallen a little bit back from Eddie Irvine now.
Yes, it's strange. I did notice that, and you can see that David Coulthard's in the clutches of Fisichella, who's really working him over from behind there. But talking about BAR, they haven't actually had everything quite their own way. Gary Anderson, who was the designer at Jordan, left because things were changing, becoming more sort of officiousness, more business-like. He was linked as going to BAR, but it seems he may well go as designer to Stewart Racing for next year, which is really what Jackie Stewart needs. He needs a top designer there. Maybe he could turn them around a little bit.
And we're told that Ricardo Zonta is on the verge of signing to partner Jacques Villeneuve at BAR. Pedro Deniz's name has also kind of been linked sideways there. Don't think quite that's going to happen, but Zonta's a strong possibility.
He certainly is, yes.
And in the meeting yesterday, they also voted to permit the addition of Honda as a constructor in the year 2000 to the World Championship.
That will be very intriguing. Of course, there was the stage when Honda were talking about buying out Jordan, but I'm sure the price will have gone up in the Jordan team right now.
It's Eddie Jordan's riding a wave. He's had a couple of great races, and we'll see how his drivers fare here today.
The interesting thing, though, is how well those Benettons are going. As you can see, David Coulthard, who you would have thought would have been wanting to get in there and mix it, and I expect him to do something a little bit stronger this weekend. He hasn't been happy with the car, but he's under extreme pressure, as I said, from Fisichella. But remember that well, you wouldn't remember, but we did discuss it before, but Benetton, in fact, are running 3 shock absorbers on the front of their car. And the third is one that goes across the top, and it actually controls the ride height. And the other 2 obviously adjust the suspension movement.
Interesting.
But they've used them before, but it's interesting that they're using them here, and they seem to be improving the car. The car's running much better.
Michael Schumacher, the pole sitter and leader. He's led every lap. Eddie Irvine took off with the lead, but was passed by Schumacher before the first lap was completed. And the two Mercedes McLarens came off 3rd and 5th spot on the grid to run 3rd and 4th. So other than Schumacher passing Irvine, that's the only change of position among the front 4.
Eddie's doing the job that Ferrari have been waiting for him to do all year, and that is to keep the McLarens at bay. I know he's only a few yards ahead, but there is obviously not disturbed air. Hakkinen doesn't want to destroy his front tyres by getting too close to Eddie, but he's obviously not doing anything about Irvine whatsoever. And as I said just now, I expected more from Coulthard, and Fisichella is working him over as well. Now, David could well start to destroy his tyres because he's under pressure, but he has had this understeer problem all weekend.
This looks like, Derek, what we call on some of the American circuits big picture racing. It's a term often used in NASCAR, where the driver is not worried about his position on the track, not worried about taking the lead. He's worried about maximizing points, and will worry about who he can catch and who he can pass later in the race. Now, that doesn't mean Mika Hakkinen is not trying hard. He's driving that car for all it's worth. But perhaps right now, since he's not leading the race, the position of he and Eddie Irvine are not of consequence to him at this stage in the race.
Well, he's not going to get by Eddie, that's for sure. He's obviously he's sussed that out already. He knew from qualifying. Mika went out and did a tremendous look. Let's just watch Schumacher as he comes over those curves. Look at that. This actually was Eddie. I apologize. This is the Eddie over those curves. This is where he lost it, and that's when Michael went through and capitalized on Eddie's loss of traction, if you'd like to call it that way. You get loss of traction when your wheels are in the air.
There's the end result, and you can see there at the entrance to the pits, it is Schumacher who leads the first lap. Now here's Damon Hill. This isn't so much a shortcut. This is the way to grandmother's house. Over the berms and through the woods.
It's the way home. Easily done. I mean, what's the point of locking the tires up when you have got an option to overshoot the corner?
Ferraris 1-2, McLaren's 3-4. Mika Hakkinen, fast lap of the race at lap 10. We're on lap 11 of the 67 they'll run today, if the track stays dry. Now, there's an ominous dark cloud, and it's a fat one. I mean, that looks like it's just loaded with rain, and we could very well end up with a wet race here.
Well, it always looks like that. Well, that is your Nürburgring weather.
Yes.
Nürburgring is like this. It's terrible. But can you imagine what it was like on the 14-mile circuit? Hakkinen having a real look at Eddie now. He's putting in some quicker laps, pushing him. He wants to get by him. Eddie mustn't let him by, and Eddie, no doubt, will go to all sorts of ends to make sure that he doesn't go by.
Okay, so much for big picture racing. Second and third place separated by 0.4 of a second.
But just also I'd like to point out is the fact, of course, that Irvine is in fourth place in the World Championship and could get third. He's only 10 points behind David Coulthard. He only needs a couple of good results to push David Coulthard. Oh, Mika backing off through there. That's interesting. Now they were taking that flat in qualifying, which might mean that, of course, he is running a high fuel load.
Also, at the corner leading onto the pit straight, it looked like Irvine got a much better launch off of that corner than Mika, and it looked as if Mika was late on the throttle as they look over the computers in the McLaren pits. Hard to judge from here, Derek, but as Mika got a push, is the car understeering a bit, but he can't get off the corner quite as quickly. There you see the same thing again.
Yeah, he's having to adapt his driving style, because you see he's picking up a lot of air behind Eddie's car, a lot of turbulence, and that is going to upset him. Now let's just see the power of that Mercedes engine as he comes up behind Eddie. What can he do about him under braking? He's having a look, but no, I don't think so. Eddie's keeping right on his line.
And right behind them, David Coulthard. He's got his hands full with Fisichella. The battle's here for second, and you'll see the top of the screen. Oops, briefly for fourth.
He really doesn't get on the power early into the corner. He's very slow, comparatively speaking, turning into the corner.
Well, Michael Schumacher is lapping 1 second per lap faster than this pair.
Well, of course, now Eddie is slowing himself down because he's trying to block out Mika as well, and he's getting a bit ragged, as you've seen, pushing himself a little bit. He is, at the same time, he's assessing where he's quicker than Hakkinen, and he knows he's quicker into the corner than Mika, yet Mika can pull him on the brakes.
Schumacher's lead is 5.8 seconds. Whoa, bounce it across those curves.
Yeah, well, they're both doing it, look. He's not the only one in the field.
That's the short way across. So Michael Schumacher, tied with Mika Hakkinen for the Drivers' Championship, leads him as Hakkinen has a look on Eddie Irvine. Not this time. We'll be right back. Mika Hakkinen chases Eddie Irvine, and he has run him ragged all around this circuit as Michael Schumacher has now built up a 7-second lead on Hakkinen. Mika's got to go.
He's really got to go, and of course Eddie got very ragged just now. He's locking up that right front brake, which does happen a lot down into the Dunlop curve. Happens a lot on this circuit. Tremendous camber. Mika gets it a bit crossed up coming out, and at a flat all the way up here. And obviously not through that bit, back off there, but then flat. And Mika is not so good into these corners, but he was mighty close to Eddie just now. Eddie mustn't get ragged. That is where Mika seems to be worrying him. It worries anybody when you got someone like Mika Hakkinen behind you, I must admit.
Well, it looks as if Irvine may be holding Hakkinen up on the entrance to these corners, and he may be upsetting his rhythm, Derek, because clearly Irvine is faster getting off the corner than Mika. Looking inside.
He's got him. What a good move. He's going to. Oh, Eddie's over the curve. Now is he going to get him out, drag him? No. That was a very good bit of driving by Mika. I mean, he just timed it just right, and Eddie had no option but to let him by. I'm surprised he didn't try and push him a little bit more, but now he's going to dog Hakkinen as well. Remember, we've got David Coulthard not too far behind, and Fisichella not far behind that, and Alexander Wirtz very close as well. So it's all pretty close for second, third, fourth, fifth place.
Well, interesting that Hakkinen was faster than Irvine going into the corners, and that was the one chicane where Eddie's car seemed to be upset the most, where he would be least likely to take a chance of throwing the car in there. So,
well, it's where he lost the lead to Michael Schumacher in the first lap as well. When you get ragged, you start to do things a bit too late, and he just bounced off those curves.
So great move, Mika.
Here he goes again. Sorry, Mike. But I mean, just a clean pass, and Mika only nudges the curve. Now, usually when you go inside somebody like that, you lose a lot of momentum, and the other guy can sweep by you. Look, here he pulls out again under the brakes, doesn't even lock a brake up, just goes through. No braking problems like Monza here for the McLaren, but Eddie's off the curbs there as well. But
another look.
I mean, just a lovely clean pass, and Eddie didn't try to stop him. I think Eddie was probably a tad surprised. Because believe me, as you come up there, you aren't looking in your mirrors. You're looking to see where that corner is, and we don't get the right perspective in this shot. As you come up to that chicane right there, you cannot see the right-hand apex. You can only see the turning in point. Very difficult.
But what a great place for Mika to make the move, because the chicane by nature is designed for one car at a time, so that if he could outbrake Irvine into that chicane, Eddie's got to let him have the line. 14 laps.
There's still the same gap between him and Michael Schumacher, 7.7 seconds. So in that lap, he hasn't caught anything up in the lap since he overtook Eddie, but that doesn't mean to say he won't thereafter.
And now here comes Coulthard after Irvine.
Which makes you wonder whether Eddie might have a little problem.
Wonder how much of his car he used up or how much of his tires he used up holding back Hakkinen. Because now Coulthard and Fisichella have Eddie Irvine in their sights.
Well, we do know that these tyres, oh, look at him streaking in with that tyre locked up. And, of course, that doesn't help much either. He's going to start getting a push problem with that left front tyre because he's overheating it and quite considerably, twice at least a lap.
Mika's just set fast lap of the race. Ooh, picked it up by 2 seconds. That's how much Eddie Irvine was holding him back. Difference 2 seconds.
Eddie's really got to keep his head down here. He does not need to let Coulthard get through as well, because it puts everything in the McLaren favor. He's got to do something a little bit more about. Look at him close up under brakes in that McLaren. But Eddie's taking it very cautiously through the chicane, gets the power down well coming out. And of course there is Fisichella right on the heels of that McLaren. This course could be interesting to see what Fisichella can do, because Irvine is going to hold up Coulthard just a little bit, and that's going to allow Fisichella to come into play.
Another fast lap for Hakkinen. Continues to lower the time of the fastest lap of the race. But, I mean, Irvine's wounded. He's fast off the corner, but that car just does not seem to be settled under braking. And you saw there Coulthard really close up under braking going into the corner, as Hakkinen had done before.
Well, it can be to do... Ooh, he's wide there.
But Frentzen?
Frentzen, yeah. But with Ralf Schumacher close on his heels.
Good battle. It's been like that since the start of the race.
It's funny, those two are the guys that are swapping teams.
Yes.
They'll be in the opposite cars for next season. I'm going to be intrigued just to see just how Frentzen goes in that, Jordan, but I think more intrigued to see how Ralf Schumacher gets on with Mr. Zanardi, and that's going to be intriguing just to see what happens in that pairing.
Now, Alex Zanardi returns to Formula One next season, announced earlier this week by Frank Williams. There's Eddie Jordan, not looking as happy as he did 2 weeks ago. So we have the battle going on for third between Eddie Irvine, David Coulthard, and Giancarlo Fisichella. Right behind them, that battle for sixth we were just watching between Frentzen and Ralf Schumacher.
Well, it won't be many laps before about 2 or 3 laps before we start to see people possibly coming in if they're on a two-stop strategy. It'll be interesting to see just what they do. And I'm sure they will be on two stops because these front tyres are taking a punishing around this circuit. All we've seen is understeer everywhere.
That's time not only for McLaren but for Benetton to get back on track. Goodyear has won 6 of the last 8 races. Of course, Goodyear will be leaving the series at the end of this year.
Whoa, look at that left-hand breakup coming to the chicane.
That'll really rotate the car, won't it?
That will really, that'll take some time off you and some life off your tyres. Don't do this at home, folks. Oh, well locked up, Mika, on that inside wheel.
Big handful of steering wheel.
It just cost him a little bit of time. Look at that left front tyre. It's got slots on it. So he'll be looking forward to coming in. The lead has gone up to 8.1 from 7.7. So Mika's quick lap hadn't done him any good because he just completely ruined a tyre.
And twice now, Hakkinen set the fastest lap of the race, but now he appears to be dropping back a little bit more from Schumacher. Here's the gap. Steady. 8.2 seconds. Mika Hakkinen cannot clinch the championship today, or he can. Schumacher can't, but Schumacher continues to hold the lead at 17 laps. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Luxembourg, where Michael Schumacher's lead has now dropped to about 7 seconds. It's a long gap to our next Grand Prix race, but it's the final one of the season, and you'll see it live here on Fox Sports Net. Saturday, October 31st, the Grand Prix of Japan, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 7:30 Pacific, live here on Fox Sports Net. Check your local listing as Michael Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen battle in the final round of the World Championship. 2 cars out of the race, Jarno Trulli, Pedro Diniz.
It's very interesting to see that Eddie Irvine here, of course, is in 3rd place. He's holding up David Coulthard, Fisichella and Alexander Wurz. But you see how they catch him under braking, but on the exit of these corners, it's Eddie that seems to pull away. He just seems to have a bit better traction of the faster corners. That, of course, is a slow corner. That's not a good example. But out of these corners, he seems to have better traction. David Coulthard has that understeer or push, and you can see that little gap making up there. But as they come to braking, David can catch him right up again. And Eddie does seem to have a slight braking problem. Fisichella has a look down the inside of David Coulthard, but knows it probably wasn't the best time to go through because you're going to have to overtake 2 of them if you went by one of them. There wasn't room to get back in again.
And we're coming up on pit stops, Derek. Ralf Schumacher is in for Jordan.
Yeah, well, he was having a bit of a bad time there, so I think they might have brought him in just to get him out on fresh tyres to have a quick run because they needed him to get some good lap times in to improve on his position. See, Eddie can pull away out of those faster corners now, locks it up as he goes down here into the Dunlop curve, but he gets away a little bit better than David as he comes out, and Fisichella's over the back of him, and Irvine obviously is slowing them down because Alexander Wurz is caught up, but they'll be pitting any time at all if they're coming in for this two-stop strategy. David Coulthard desperately needs to get in front of Eddie before the pit stop. He needs a couple of quick laps before he goes in himself, assuming he's on the 2-lap strategy the same.
And the Stewart pits are laid out as well. Look at the gap. It's shrunk now to 5.7 seconds as Hakkinen drops fast lap of the race down to 1:20.7.
Yes, he's really hounding Michael right now, but Michael is there. He's in, at the moment, in the pound seats, or the dollar seats, as we say over here, because he's got that 5-6 second lead, and that's what he needs going into a pit stop. Ferrari are known for their quality, efficient pit stops. They don't often make mistakes, and that's what Michael needs. Here we go as Fisichella comes in for his stop.
So lap 24, Giancarlo Fisichella is in. He drops off that battle for third with Eddie Irvine and David Coulthard.
Very good move to bring him in. He wasn't getting anywhere behind David, so he had to come in for this stop. Not a bad stop, 9 seconds. You need to get out and go. He must get a gear first before he let the clutch out, but he's gone now. There's been quite a lot of interesting stuff going on between Bridgestone this year, in the fact that everybody's been saying, Bennett in particular, we don't like the tyres that Bridgestone are delivering to us. We want the wider front tyre. But of course, Mika Hakkinen, being the leading contender for the World Championship, Bridgestone bring what he wants, and the others have to follow suit. But we can see here that the Bridgestones are now beginning to work with the narrower front on the Benetton.
Well, certainly they'll have a much easier task next year as the sole tire supplier to Formula One. Schumacher coming in at lap 25 for his first pit stop.
Of course, it depends just how he comes out in this after this pit stop, or what position he comes out on the track. But I don't think they got any option, Ferrari. I think he's eaten up his tyres in his quest to pull ahead of Mika. He's now going to go, remember, on fresh tyres. Let's just hope he has a clear bit of laps and get going, get some of those typical Schumacher flyers in. 8.5 seconds is a good time. Probably a 20-second overall pit stop, a 21-second in and out stop. Here he comes. He's got one car in front of him, which is a great pity, and that's Alexander Bertz coming down. Remember, Fisichella's been in.
He's going to put him about fifth. That's one of the Tyrrells just ahead. Now, earlier he had lapped Ricardo Rosset on the racetrack, and so this would be a lap car as well. Now, there's Eddie Irvine behind him.
And there's Bertz in the pits, who we thought he might get tangled up with, but he hasn't.
So this should drop Schumacher to fourth or fifth.
Here he goes, down inside Rosset. That was a good move by Michael. So actually, Michael is now in second place. Behind Hakkinen, and there's Eddie Irvine behind him, and behind him, of course, is David Coulthard.
Right.
And both the Benettons have been in for tyres. One of the Ferraris has been in, so in a moment, Eddie, I'm sure, will be going in for tyres, but they probably want to give Michael a chance to pull away a little bit. They might keep Eddie up there to hold up David Coulthard a little bit, to let Michael get away for a few laps, because what he doesn't need is David Coulthard chasing him.
So Mika Hakkinen is the leader, and Schumacher comes back on track in second. There's Eddie Irvine. Here's Hakkinen by himself. Eddie Irvine and Coulthard now third and fourth. And again, Hakkinen lowers the fast lap standard, this time to 120.4.
Now, this is where Michael they're ready for Eddie now, but this is where Michael has to get some really, really quick laps in to capitalize on having those quick laps. New tyres on, get some quick laps in. The tyres drop away for anything up to half a second after 3 or 4 laps when they've just gone out. So he's got to capitalize, as Eddie has when he goes out after the stop. Bit of a long stop for Eddie, 10.3 seconds.
And again, Derek, no sign in the pits of the McLaren Mercedes team. They're either getting very good fuel mileage, or they started with very, very full tanks.
Well, that's it. That is always the possibility. We just didn't know what their strategy would be. They need to get good results. Haven't seen much of the Saubers, and as I say that, there is one right there.
So Damon Hill is 7th. Eddie Irvine came out right behind him.
It's going to be a bit chaotic for a while, whether they're all stopping or not stopping, whatever the case may be. Both Benettons very close together. Remember, they have fresh tyres, and the Benetton people have been saying that these tyres seem to vary quite a lot from one set to another. So maybe we're going to just see how much they vary and whether they've improved, in fact, on the Benettons for this particular step of the race.
All right, Jordan is now set up for Damon Hill's pit stop, and the first Williams pit stop should be coming up this lap.
Schumacher 17 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen, but remember, Michael has had that stop of over 20 seconds, so he must be recording some pretty quick laps right now. Oh, we'll come off it though. He was 5 seconds ahead when he went in, so that would account for it.
26 laps completed. Hakkinen and Schumacher tied for the World Championship. And here's Damon Hill.
That made his man jump out of the way with his little lollipop. That's for sure.
He'll surrender 7th place. Also the pit board out for Mika Salo.
That's a good stop by Jordan. They're getting so much improved these days, Jordan. They've really stepped it up.
Johnny Herbert was also in for Sauber.
McLaren still, Hakkinen doesn't come in the pit lane for his tyres and refueling. But of course, course, when they've got to balance out whether his 17 seconds is enough to stop Michael catching up on him if he only does do a one-stop. Häkkänen's, it says 2 seconds. I don't believe that's quite right between Mika and Michael. I think it's only like 21.
27 laps next time round. I'm surprised with what's happened to McLaren in the past if they go with a one-stop strategy, because each time when Schumacher has made more stops than McLaren in these last few races, Schumacher's beaten them.
Yeah. And they may have fumbled out. There's a way to match it. And that's why they were just playing it cool to start with. But Mika was certainly piling on some really quick laps just now, and he still is. Poor David Coulthard, he just keeps getting lumbered with traffic all the time.
And follow the bouncing Stewart.
That can really upset you when you're the driver behind as you come squealing in there.
Jean Alesi at lap 27.
That's a good pit stop, 7.5 seconds.
Quite.
Alesi, of course, in his 150th Grand Prix.
So at lap 28, McLaren will make their stop. And now Häkkinen is in.
So it'll be interesting to see just how long a pit stop he has. Remember, he won't have to take as much fuel on because he's done 3 or 4 laps more. But I would have thought he still would have to come in for a dash and splash towards the end. 6, 7, 8. That's too long. That's too long. Here comes Michael past the pits, and he'll now take the lead. Mika's still in the pit lane as Michael goes down. They're all coming out so close now. What's going to happen? Remember, Michael nearly lost it coming in there. That's a brilliant bit of pit work by the McLaren team, but look at him being hounded. And of course, he's got those other cars. So this is the price of the race as we look right now.
I surely thought he would lose the lead.
Yep, I did as well. That was an incredible bit of strategy by McLaren. First time it's really worked for them this year. Now we've got traffic ahead. What's going to happen here?
So Mika Häkkinen is able to hold the lead with the pit stop, but only by the narrowest margin. He just about had Schumacher up his tailpipe coming off the pit lane.
And he's on completely fresh tyres, and Michael certainly isn't. And Michael obviously is not going to be happy because his car looks like it's sliding around a bit. It looks like his tyres have started to go off already, which isn't good for Schumacher.
Get around Olivier Penny. Virtually the same stop times.
This is going to hold Mika up as they come into the Speedol chicane. Mika didn't need this. Michael will be right up with him now. Oh. He pulled well over. I thought he was going in the pit lane.
Yes.
Good pull over, but Michael didn't manage to capitalize on him as much as I thought.
David Coulthard should be in this time any years. There's Coulthard going down the pit lane here at lap 29.
What a great bit of racing to see the 2 contestants for the World Championship duking it out on the track at seconds apart, a second apart.
8.6 for Coulthard, good stop.
Now where will he come out? Will he be ahead of Eddie Irvine? Yeah, he's ahead of it. There's one of the Williams, and Eddie comes up behind him now.
So this long-run strategy of McLaren this time appears to have paid off. Irvine 5th, Frentzen in 6th.
Because a lot of it depends on the traffic you come across as well, and it's just added up to them getting those extra seconds that they needed. Clever bit of work by the McLaren team.
Now again, and we've seen this before, Jacques Villeneuve is the only driver in the top 12 who has yet to pit.
They really stretch it out on that Williams. Remember, they're running the same engines as the Benettons that pitted a long time ago.
Yeah, the Benettons were in at lap 24 and 25. And now we're coming up on 30 complete. Could Jack be on a one-stopper?
Stranger things have happened.
Yes. There's the gap, 9/10 of a second.
Of course, Schumacher right behind Häkkinen's got to contend with this turbulent air, which upsets the balance of the car, gives him that push that he doesn't need, and helps destroy those front tires that he just doesn't need. And of course, he has done 5 or 6 laps more than Mika Häkkinen on those tires. the motorsport director for Mercedes.
And right there on screen is all you need to know about the World Championship battle. One of these two will win it. The question is who? Hakkinen or Schumacher? 30 laps complete. We'll be right back with you on Fox Sports Net. Jacques Villeneuve surrenders third place by making his pit stop at lap 32. Tune in today for a Fox Sports News special. Baseball 98, one for the record books. The Yankees' dominance, the blockbuster trades, the end of Cal Ripken's streak. Sammy and Big Mac's astounding home run assault. You'll have a look back at a magical season. Today at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific. Check your local listing. Well, Jacques Villeneuve's pit stop drops him off the leaderboard. Hakkinen, Schumacher, David Coulthard now up to third, Eddie Irvine fourth, Heinz-Harald Frentzen in fifth, and Giancarlo Fisichella sixth in the Benetton. And there's the gap, just 0.8 of a second. 25 seconds more, back to David Coulthard.
They've really got away from Coulthard, haven't they? Those two, they're trading quickest laps all the time. Of course, Schumacher's tucked in behind Mika. There's nothing you can do about going by him really at this stage, and probably is content to stay there till the next pit stop, which isn't the way he'd like to go, but there's a lot of turbulent air there. This dice here is the one that is intriguing though, of course. And of course you have Irvine, Frentzen, Fisichella and Wirtz all having a real old battle.
That's the best race aside from the one for the lead on the track right now. See how humid it is. Look at the vapor trails coming off the rear wing of these cars. 94% humidity. Strong threat of rain.
Well, we're up very high, and you can look out of the back of the pits at Nürburgring and just see the clouds sort of coming up. You're almost looking onto the underside of the clouds as they come up, because it's minus 0.8, plus 0.5, and that is to Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
As if he needs to be told.
Just
look,
okay. Thanks very much for all the effort, boys.
He is just swarmed with cars.
And I'm sure the last thing he's looking at is his lap board right now, with cars red front and blue behind him.
This is a great battle, and we started this race with the field stringing out quite a bit, much more so than we've seen in the past couple of races, and now they've come back together in clusters.
Look
Here's
at that black storm clouds up there, Mike. There's such clouds drifting in of around. It's really, really threatening clouds, but I don't think we're probably going to see in this race. Schumacher is that tad closer to Mika, but Michael has got to just pace himself because he mustn't destroy those tires. Here we go. This is Michael coming by as Hakkinen comes out of the pits, and Hakkinen just goes down the inside. Michael gets all crossed up trying to come in really, really late, but there's no avail and doesn't get by.
Yeah, I can't believe it's not raining yet, Derek.
No, I can't, but it's raining somewhere. It's probably raining at Spa, which is not far away. Remember, we're quite close to Cologne. We're up in northern part of Germany towards the Belgian border. And they get some pretty... We're close to the Ardennes forest. We're in the Eifel Mountains. Look at that threatening weather. Just nose to tail. Michael's got to stay there, and he's going to be talking to those mechanic guys, saying you've just got to get me a really quick stop next time. But remember, he'll be going in just a little bit before Hakkinen, if I'm right in thinking. Who knows how much fuel they put in, but he doesn't want to destroy the tires because he really needs to stay out as long as Mika does, and that's going to be difficult.
Well, Schumacher has 3 more laps on this set of tires than does Mika, which is not terribly significant, and who knows how much of a fuel load they gave him. Last lap,
and Michael is all over the back of him. You've got to admit that. Sorry to interrupt you, but he is all over the tail of Hakkinen. I am surprised that he's managing to do that. It's easy to catch under braking, but it's getting out of these fast corners in the turbulent air is very, very difficult.
Rubens Barrichello on a one-stop strategy for Stewart is in the pits.
Fisichella has, I think I'm right in saying, given up that place to Heinz-Harald Frentzen. No, he's having another look. Fisichella's having a look.
Well, that's how they've been running.
That's how they've been running.
The pit stop.
They were there before, the other way around, before the pit stop is right. What I'm meant to be saying. They lost it in that pit stop. Frenzsen's done incredibly well because he was well back.
And Wirtz has done quite a job to catch them up.
Look at Fizzy. Is he looking down the inside? Here he goes. Is he going to get him? Whoa, no, not quite room enough there. Those two cars are running identical engines, both Renault Mechachrome engines. That is Frentzen and Fisichella, the same engines.
I can't remember the last time that we saw 4 cars locked in such a tight battle toward the front of the pack. For such a long time.
That's right. They're really having a go here for 4th place.
Jean Todt. One of the lappers moving aside.
Looks this little nose to tail go past. Boy, it worries you when you come up and somebody waves a flag at you, and you're the guy in 2nd place in this position like Michael, and you come up and you go, has that guy seen that there's 2 of us overtaking under the blue flag, or is that tail ender noticed only one of them, and you just wonder if he's going to duck in behind and have you off the road.
There's one of the minorities who have gotten very used to having the leaders in their mirrors this year.
Yeah, they unfortunately have, and they've spent most of their time being passed and overtaken over the years. But as I said just now, they're going to be having these Works engines, not quite the same as the Stewart. There'll be 2 specifications behind the Stewart team engines for next year, but at least there'll be Works Ford engines and not what we call custom engines before, because remember that Cosworth was in fact bought by Ford from VW when VW and Audi bought out that major Rolls-Royce thing back in England, which owned Cosworth.
36 laps. Hakkinen, Schumacher, Coulthard.
And it's going to come down to this last pit stop.
Only one driver has not yet pitted. That's Shinji Nakano, who must have gone out. Well, he came to the grid on wet tires and a full load of fuel. So he's still out, waiting for I don't know what.
Well, they probably thought just stick him out a load of fuel and get him some mileage. Oh, look at this move. Fisichella was having a look down the inside. He so nearly got by Frentzen, but he didn't. And it makes you wonder whether he might have just capitalized on that, but he's got Frentzen really rattled. Meanwhile, of course, you can see the obvious. There he goes. He's got him. Has he got him? No, he hasn't, but he's got him really rattled. And of course, this lets Eddie Irvine pull away. As you can see, Frentzen's getting it locked up. Frentzen's got to stick to the outside. No, he comes across in front of Fisichella. Meanwhile, Wirtz is watching the show from behind. They're coming down the straight side by side. Now, this could give it to Fisichella because he's got the inside move coming down into turn 1. Is he going to get it? And of course, Wirtz is ready to pounce as well. Yes, Fisichella has got him. Oh, he has got him. He nearly nudged him up the back. But look at Wirtz. He's all over the back and he's nearly off the road in his exuberance. He's going to go down the inside, yes, and he's got by Frentzen. No, he hasn't. But he's close.
God, Frentzen's getting tag teamed by the Benettons.
Come on, boys. This is 2-on-1. This isn't fair. This is a Benetton sandwich here.
No, but it sure is fun to watch.
And look where Eddie Irvine's gone. He's disappeared. That's just what Eddie needed. Thank goodness for that. I'm glad those 3 got involved.
Eddie's racing the track as these 3 race each other.
Meanwhile, behind, I think we got Ralf Schumacher coming up as one of the Tyrrells blows itself up again.
Rosette.
That's the second big blow up he's had this weekend.
And he's the 3rd car out of the race, following Jarno Trulli and Pedro Diniz.
Ralf Schumacher's having a good run on this new set of tires, which is what we thought he might do. Coming into a picture there at the top of it, Jordan.
Yeah, not only was Irvine able to get away, but Ralf Schumacher. It's quite a delight to watch cars battling side by side right in front of you, because you're going, I've got him, I've got him, I've got him, and pretty soon you're caught right up if they keep that up.
Oh, yeah. And when we're our days of Formula 3 and Formula 2, when there were like 40 of us all within half a second on a grid, you couldn't wait for that sort of situation to arise. And it's interesting, too, of course, to note that the Frentzen car in the Williams, he's actually on Goodyear's.
Frentzen got passed.
Fisichella looked like he might have missed a gear or something went wrong. Meanwhile, Wirtz goes through as well to have a go. So now it's back to Alexander to have a bit of a go and see what happened.
Fisichella just dropped 2 spaces in 1 corner.
And he's got Ralf Schumacher right behind. That could have been nasty for Frentzen, who might have got caught up in his whatever happened, maybe missing a gear or something got out of shape for him. But I'm just saying, remember, the Benettons are on Bridgestone and the Williams is on Goodyear.
Meanwhile, back at the front, Michael Schumacher continues to track Mika Hakkinen, and they stay less than a second apart.
Mika there trying to break the toe so Michael doesn't get the benefit of it. I can't quite see the point of that at the speeds they're going, 175 miles an hour.
This is
lower.
Yep. What's that?
Just now in the Tyrrell Ford.
Oh yeah, go boom.
I thought this will be the last but one race that we're going to see of the Tyrrells as we see them now, because next year it'll be the VAR team again with the Tyrrell, but nonetheless they will have the Ford engines. It'll be a totally new car. Something Tuera having another ride in the other Minardi. Not a good day for Minardi. They're having a pretty lurid time.
The weather's starting to break a little as Mika Hakkinen is doing just what Damon Hill said he must do at the top of our show. Get out in front of Michael Schumacher and stay out front. Set the pace, lead the race to try to win his first world championship. So Hakkinen continues to lead Michael Schumacher for the championship and this race after 40 laps. We'll be right back with you on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to the Nürburgring, where Johnny Herbert has joined the list of cars out of the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Every Sunday night, it's English Premier League soccer on Fox Sports Net. The world's most passionate fans and greatest collection of soccer talent. English Premier League soccer, Sundays, 7 p.m. Check your local listing. Mika Hakkinen continues to lead Michael Schumacher by the narrowest of margins, under a second. And here's Heinz-Harald Frentzen holding sway on the two Benettons.
Yes, one wonders quite why Fisichella did drop back. Maybe he got caught out on that oil when Rosset blew up. Who knows what it was, but it certainly did upset him, didn't it? And now he's all back in the throes of things, but of course he lost 2 positions by it. But they're getting ready for a pit stop, which could well be for Fisichella. Here he goes.
It is Fisichella. He made his first stop at lap 24. The second of the lead group of cars to pit behind Ralf Schumacher. And now gives up 7th place to pit. Eddie Irvine led from the start, but before a lap was completed, Michael Schumacher had stormed past his Ferrari teammate and into the lead. On the exchange of pit stops, Mika Hakkinen came out of the pit lane just in front of Michael Schumacher and continues to hold the lead.
Schumacher locking up brakes, the tyres, that's just what he doesn't need. And remember, he has got 3 laps less in his tyres than Mika. Michael really getting ragged out there. And it makes you wonder when he's going to come in. But of course, this is the critical pit stop, because if he has a longer pit stop with it, he should do, then Mika Hakkinen's going to have. Then, of course, Mika will come out in the lead, presuming they have an immaculate stop in both teams. And this is going to be Michael's dilemma. He needs to be very close to Mika. He doesn't need to go in quite as soon as he would like to have possibly done. He's dropped back to sort of probably well over 1.5 seconds now. At the same time, they've got to work out that he doesn't need to come out in the clutches of David Coulthard if Michael goes in early. So they've got to figure out just how that's going to work out after a 21-second pit stop. Look at them peeling in the pits for fuel.
Yeah, Verts, Frentzen are both in.
Now, let's see if Fisichella is going to be in front of these, but remember he had a 9.5-second stop, which wasn't that outstanding. This is Salo coming in. This is going to be interesting to just see what happens here, whether Verts can get out ahead of Frentzen and whether Fisichella will get round ahead of both of them, because he had a longish stop, 9.5. That's not a very quick stop, taking too long over something. Oh, he's gone, and out goes Salo right in front of him, but he's over. That is pretty naughty stuff. He looked like he might have had, he overtook just as they came up to the line on the pit lane, which I would have thought wasn't very British, actually.
Well, it may not have been very British, but was it legal?
It was German, wasn't it? Oh. Yeah, that wasn't very good.
And the Benettons are again nose to tail. Sitting inside
they let by Salo.
Dispatching Salo.
There should be a penalty for that overtaking the pit road. I mean, I know they're on a speed limit up there, but of course, who knows whether they were really on it. But it certainly looked like Frentzen whipped out and went by him.
Well, and with the speed limit in the pit lane, it's hard to believe that one driver could have been that much quicker.
He was certainly zapping by him.
And there are the two Benettons after second pit stop.
And final pit stop, and this one is so critical here. This is the Schumacher Hakkinen deal going on up front, and Michael has just got to conserve those tires. I don't know when he's going to come in, but this is going to be make or break for Ferrari whether they win this race. Is this next pit stop?
And they're breathing again. Normal pulse rate in the McLaren Mercedes pits. Remember last year, lap 42, one engine going, and lap 43 the other, and both cars out of the race. You know, they've passed that point now. It's significant only historically. These aren't the same engines. They're not the same cars. But certainly a sigh of relief.
Schumacher's trying absolutely everything he can, obviously, just to keep in touch with Hakkinen. He doesn't need this gap to open up because it's really, really critical time for the World Championship as we look. Although I know there's a race in Japan to go, but Michael needs to be in front of Mika if he wants to win it. Mika's had a lot of pressure on him. He hasn't had the results recently. Michael's had, I think, 5 wins out of 8. Look at Michael sliding as he goes to that corner. His car really, the tires really are getting away. Now let's just see Salo coming out in front. He doesn't get any wheel spin, but as he goes down the road now, is he on the speed limiter or is he just backing off?
Well, if it's the yellow line at the end of the last occupied pit stall, it's a legal pass. But if it's this yellow line, he's in trouble.
Well, that is another line there, and that is the speed limit line where he went by. .3 seconds now between these two guys in the lead pairing. Ferrari are running a slightly different modified front chevron-shaped front wing this weekend. Both the cars, they brought it here after testing in Italy, and they thought it might be the way to go. Let's ride with Michael.
Now Jacques Villeneuve's in the pits. This is a very early second stop. Esteban Tuero is in as well at lap 46. Villeneuve was in 6th place. This is much quicker than his first stop at 8 seconds. Of course, they're putting in less fuel, just enough to go the distance.
He's coming right out, just right behind that dice between his partner Frenzen and the two Benettons. Because they obviously want to get him in there in the midst of this fracas and cause a bit of havoc amongst the Benettons to keep their attentions averted from Frenzen.
All right, Ferrari is about to bring Schumacher in. This pit stop could decide the World Championship. Schumacher needs a stop that's 2 seconds quicker than Hakkinen. There's the gap, 2.3 seconds to get him the lead back where it's most easy to pass on pit stops. 2.4 seconds. That's a lot to ask.
He's losing 2 or 3 tenths a lap, Michael.
Needs tires.
Yes, he really badly needs tires. But there is traffic ahead of Mika too, so Mika is either going to stay and have to contend with that traffic. And just after the chicane. Is that bad visibility? I can't see.
Well, 2.5 seconds is a lot to ask of the crew. Keep in mind, the longer that Hakkinen stays out, the less fuel his team will have to add, and the quicker his pit stop will be.
Michael coming in this time. Yes, he is. There's that traffic in front, so it's quite a good time for him to come in, because Mika's got 3 or 4 cars, all that group ahead of him there. He's got to slip by. Michael Schumacher will come out, hopefully with a fresh bit of track. We should see Ferrari at their best now. Let's hope for Schumacher's sake we do. There he goes, 7.5 seconds. That's a great stop. That was a great stop, and he should come out maybe with some clean track. He's certainly not going to come out. Look at that bit of track. No, that's behind him, but there's clear bit in front as well, and he hasn't got to contend with the fast group. The fast group are in front of Mika Hakkinen that are some 20-odd seconds ahead of him. Let's just hope these set of tires work, and we see Schumacher getting out there and really getting in and doing some record laps.
Yeah, the challenge for Michael right now is to run time trial laps. Now, since he is on fresh tires, and his lap times will certainly go down, McLaren is going to bring Hakkinen in and put fresh tires on Hakkinen as well.
But Hakkinen's losing time with this dice in front of him. Remember, he's catching up one of the Williams and one of the Benettons as he does it.
So Schumacher in at lap 48.
See, Mika Hakkinen's being held up by this group now. This is just what Schumacher and Ferrari were hoping that might happen. Will Mika come in this time? Here he comes. But he might have lost a valuable bit of time. just see how quick. This is really critical stuff. This is it. This is really the critical point of the race.
The real gain for Schumacher is that lap that Hakkinen had to run in traffic while Schumacher has open track and fresh tires.
They've got to be less than 8.5 seconds. 4.5, 5. That was a quick time. He's picked up a second on that pit stop. Let's look over the pit wall and see where here comes Schumacher. Is he going to go by? No, he's not. He's still behind Mika Hakkinen. Not what was prescribed on the doctor's orders, but Mika will be very happy with that. McLaren's will be very happy with that wonderful pit stop.
Well, let's assume that both drivers got a full load of fuel on their first stop. With Hakkinen stopping 3 laps later than Schumacher on the first stop, he would have needed less fuel on this stop. Maybe that accounted for that half a second.
Without a doubt, Mike. Without a doubt. They brought him in. They thought fresh rubber's what he needs. He's in traffic, and therefore we can have a quicker stop because we have to put less fuel in. They changed the tires in 4 seconds.
Ralf Schumacher in at lap 49. Ralf could well be in the points today. 7.
Now we're going to have to see whether Schumacher's just going to mount an attack on Hakkinen or not. Would he really push it to the limits?
That's John Alesi in for his second stop. And looking at a top 10 finish today. Mika Hakkinen, Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Eddie Irvine. 2 Ferraris and 2 McLarens in the front 4.
That's where the weather comes. It comes from that southerly area. So the black stuff we saw was over there, behind us there, and that was drifting away from us.
So now the gap, 2.9 seconds. It's expanded by about a tenth.
It makes you wonder whether maybe Schumacher might have a small problem, because he was right close behind Hakkinen just now, and he's already 2.9 back on the first lap out.
And they're laid out for Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari pit. If they continue in this order, McLaren could not clinch the Constructors' Championship today. Ferrari would pick up enough points to stay within striking distance, though it would require both McLarens to fall out of the race in Japan for Ferrari to notch its 10th Constructors, or rather 10th championship.
And it would finish Eddie's chances of finishing 3rd in the Drivers' Championship as well, if they finished in the order they're in now.
True. So David Coulthard has not yet pitted, nor Damon Hill among the front runners, as we close on 50 laps here in the Grand Prix of Luxembourg on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. That's David Coulthard in the pit lane. He will be the last of the top dozen cars to pit. Esteban Tuero joins those out of the race. Rosette, Denitz, Herbert, and Jarno Trulli. Coulthard will hang on to 3rd place with a stop of 7.3 seconds.
Yes, David's having a lonely old race.
Yes. Now let's show you the second pit stops. Is Eddie Irvine, of Michael Schumacher, and of Mika Hakkinen.
It was a really good stop, 7.4 seconds. And in comes Mika Hakkinen. As we discussed, he had to put slightly less fuel in, and he gets a quicker stop. 6/10 quicker than Schumacher.
Yeah, I would have called that about a 6/6. They're a little late with the watch stop. One car slowing. One of the Jordans has all but stopped on the course. That's Ralf Schumacher.
Eddie nodding his head. Their new Mugen Honda is working here particularly well. They have an even more powerful engine for the race in Japan in 4 weeks' time.
What happened to Ralf?
Straight across the Kittilia. That's where he ended up taking his brother off last year.
He's not yet back up to speed.
I don't know whether he actually lost it under braking. There didn't seem to be clouds of smoke. It's like something happened as he went down the straight and he just couldn't slow it down.
Look at Coulthard's laps, but for lap 53 where traffic played a part. He's all been quicker than Schumacher.
Second a lap quicker. Can he catch Michael Schumacher? 5.1 between Hakkinen and Schumacher, and Mika's just pulling away at 3 or 4 tenths a lap. Michael, I would suggest, has a minor problem with the car, which is enough to let him lose that time. And he's sort of nursing the car home, but he's got David Coulthard, I believe, to contend with.
Well, if Coulthard is able to hang in where he is or pass Schumacher, that will cement third place in the driver's standings.
It won't do Schumacher any good if he goes by him. Ralph still working his way back slowly, but something must have gone astray. It's a pity in front of his home crowd.
Yes.
He'd like to have done much better than that. Oh, he's gone off. I just saw that. Barry Keller Verstappen having a wild time, and he didn't deter Mika Hakkinen from still getting through the corner very neatly.
Look at the gap here. Oh, 4.5 seconds. Ferrari dealing with traffic there. And there's another look at Barrichello. You know, Derek, I hate to suggest it because it's a rookie mistake, but could Barrichello have been looking in his mirror as he came into the corner and looking for Hakkinen in the mirror?
Well, he could well have been doing that. I mean, he's well down the place and he's trying to keep out of everybody's way and ends up out fumbling himself, and he got a real wobbly on, didn't he, under braking as he came in there, and that was enough to put him off, I suppose.
White flag waving for an emergency vehicle out. I wonder if they've gone and hooked up to Ralph Schumacher.
I think it's Ralph. I would say it's Ralph coming back very slowly. They don't send emergency vehicles out that much.
No, slow car. There he is. Schumacher has finally made the pit lane.
But it seems that he had a major brake problem, and that would account for the fact he didn't seem to slow down much at the end of the straight and came around slowly afterwards.
Brake trouble for Ralph Schumacher.
Not such a big gap now between Schumacher and Mika Hakkinen, but I think that was because of the traffic and, of course, seeing Verstappen go off the road.
And an early end of the day for Ralph Schumacher, following up a podium finish here with a DNF at the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. So Ralph Schumacher becomes the 6th car out of the race, joining Esteban Tuero, Johnny Herbert, Jarno Trulli, Ricardo Rosset, and Pedro Diniz.
Some good shots there of Michael Schumacher going through the Vidal chicane, using all those curves, and how that suspension takes it is absolutely amazing. When they're going over those curves, it's something like 3 times the weight of the car shaking through that suspension.
Mika Hakkinen doing just what most observers said he must do, get out in front of Schumacher and just stay there and run qualifying style laps.
Michael is, the gap is not made any improved at all. In fact, Michael might have pulled in a little bit on Mika Hakkinen, but as I said, I think that might have been due to the traffic we saw just now.
Let's see how much of a difference it made. Now there's the last lap gap below and above this lap's gap. If anything, it's fractionally higher.
If we could ride with Michael Schumacher a little bit more, we might be able to find out might be able to analyze what his problem is.
The Minardi gives way. It's Nakano for Schumacher, who trails Mika Hakkinen now in both the race and perhaps in the Drivers' Championship. We'll be right back. Well, clearly there must be a problem, because in the last few races, Schumacher has been at least the equal of Hakkinen. In each of the circuits we visited, all through the weekend, there's been no complaint of tire problems by either side. Reliability. So kind of surprising that Hakkinen has been able to hold a 5-second lead. Looking for third places now. Schumacher has 3 third-place finishes on the season. Mika Hakkinen has only 1. So if they finish here 1-2 and then go to Japan and Schumacher beats Hakkinen to the finish line 1-2, Schumacher would be world champion by virtue of the most third-place finishes.
You're absolutely right, Michael.
Should they times
argue with you? But we mustn't surmise all this stuff so soon. But
nope.
You're absolutely right.
We got 5 weeks to ponder it all. Yeah.
There's a good dice going on down here. There's a really good dice going on down here. Frenzen's having a real old go with Fisichella, and Bert's right behind him. Of course, we know Schumacher was there. Ralph was there before, but he had this brake problem. He pulled out.
6 cars out now of the 22 starters. Now Damon Hill is the 9th place car, just in front of Mika.
So they're now going to get by these guys at the back, which is going to be the same for both Ferrari and for the McLaren team. Getting by the slower cars. Damon pulls over to let Mika by very generously there.
Two cars and more than 5 seconds separating the leaders. 2 cars being the 2-lap machines. A nice sportsmanlike gesture by Damon.
Very nice piece of overtaking, and it was a sportsmanlike gesture. And Damon was thinking, oh, so he's leading. That's what I thought. Whoever gets, if Mika gets in front, he's got to dominate. That's what he's doing. Norbert Haug and Herr Schrumpf, who's the head of marketing for Mercedes, goes to a lot of the races. In fact, this weekend we understand the president of Finland is there to see Mika, so no wonder he's pulling out all the stops today. The gap has dropped down 7/10 with Mika negotiating this traffic, but still with only 6 laps to go, it's hardly likely Michael's going to make up that time and get by him.
Well, the first Finnish world champion was Keke Rosberg in 1982.
And he was a wild, wonderful driver, great to watch, great talented driver.
Quite a contrast between he and Mika Hakkinen.
Yes, and of course he's Mika Hakkinen's manager.
Yes. Last time Mercedes won the Formula One World Drivers' Championship, 1955. Juan Manuel Fangio. .3 seconds now.
That is Arya, who is Mika Hakkinen's wife, standing there on the right side of your picture in the pits.
Now Schumacher has dispatched the 1-lapped car and now has to pull up on Damon Hill.
It'll be interesting to see what Damon does, because Damon hasn't been too generous over the years to Michael, and vice versa.
Did you notice in Peter's interview at the top of the day, Damon kept referring to Michael as the other guy or the other driver, but never by name.
No, I know, nor did Jacques Villeneuve.
Yes.
No love lost there, but when you think of it, Michael tried to put them both out of World Championship titles, so...
that's right, Jacques especially, especially did not refer to Michael by name. Okay, watch the bouncing right rear tire once again.
Well, look at it oscillate when it goes over those curves. Rather subdued Ferrari mechanics, I'm afraid to say, not exactly leaping in the air today like they were at the last race at Monza, but you can't win them all. But this is the one that we did think that the Ferrari would dominate front row positions, and they don't dominate.
Here's the gap again. 4.5.
Just the same as it was last lap. And David Coulthard was 32 seconds behind Michael, and now he's actually only 30 seconds behind. But he's not going to move much in the next 5 laps, that's for sure.
And it's probably fitting that the first 4 drivers in this race are the first 4 in the lead for the World Championship. Hakkinen, Schumacher, Coulthard, Irvine. Five laps to go in the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Mika Hakkinen leads Michael Schumacher, David Coulthard, Eddie Irvine, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and Giancarlo Fisichella. We'll be right back. 3.5 laps left to go in the Grand Prix of Luxembourg here at the Nürburgring. Mika Hakkinen in the lead, will take the lead in the Drivers' Championship by 4 points. Michael Schumacher, now let me clarify or correct. If in Japan Schumacher wins and Hakkinen finishes second, Hakkinen is the World Championship by virtue of having more second-place finishes. It would not go to a third-place finishes tiebreaker in that case. So the pressure will still be on when we go to Japan in 5 weeks' time. Eddie Irvine will see his chances for third in the final tally disappear as he trails David Coulthard. Coulthard will have more than 10 points on Irvine, and that's an insurmountable gap. going to the last race.
He said he's had a pretty quiet second half to this race after leading it in the most exciting way for 3/4 of a lap, and then shot himself in the foot going over this chicane, the Vidal chicane. Look at the speed as they come up there. Look at the braking on that Ferrari as it comes up for the Vidal chicane.
And it looks like Benetton is going to score their first point since the British Grand Prix.
Yeah, they're doing an excellent job today. The cars, they seem to suit this track. They've got the tyres going, and of course they are working a lot on suspension modifications, some of the development for next year.
5.7 seconds the gap. That has lessened some due to traffic. A few cautious smiles in the McLaren pit.
Yeah, they're smiling a little bit more than they have done in recent races. But it's great. They were behind. They had some faults. They had problems with the brakes at Monza. They had the engine failure in Coulthard's car. But they've come back really, really strong here. And despite being on the second and third rows of the grid, they're looking really good in first and third place in this Grand Prix.
Rumors continue to abound of a U.S. Grand Prix in the year 2000. It won't be in Las Vegas. That was decided certainly last week by the county commissioners, who denied the opportunity to build a circuit there. There are proposals in, we're told, from Indianapolis, from Road Atlanta, and Chris Pook's Long Beach Grand Prix organization has proposed a choice of 4 different sites for a U.S. Grand Prix that might happen as early as the year 2000.
I still keep thinking that Road Atlanta would make such a great racetrack. I adore that circuit. It's made already. It's like a Brands Hatch type circuit, very exciting to drive on. And of course, Don Panos has put a load of money into making that a really state-of-the-art racetrack.
4.7 seconds with a lap to go is the gap from Hakkinen to Schumacher. It's thought that Indianapolis is the front runner, and one paper even reported the deal was done. Not so, says Bernie Ecclestone. There is as yet nothing firm on a U.S. Grand Prix.
Well, Bernie Ecclestone wants to race in June, and Mr. George wants to race in September. There's a little bit of problems there. Here we go. They're at the pit wall to cheer Mika Hakkinen coming through to a very, very important victory.
His 7th of the season, and the lead in the Drivers' Championship standings over Michael Schumacher, who has given it his all, and perhaps today not found his Ferrari quite up to task. So close and yet so far.
Yeah, there's a World Championship there being fully decided as we speak, but who knows? Still one to go in Japan. And how many times has that race been decided in Japan over the years? Quite a number.
The gap down to 3 seconds as they cross the pit entrance and the final corner. Mika Hakkinen scores win number 7 and takes a 4-point lead on Michael Schumacher, and we will go to Japan to decide it.
Great piece of driving by Mika. Immaculate driving all the way. Never put a foot wrong. There's his wife here being congratulated by the mechanics, but what a brilliant piece of driving by Mika. Must be very, very happy man.
Hakkinen, Schumacher, Coulthard, Irvine, the order. We'll be right back with you here on Fox Sports Net. 7th win of the season for Mika Hakkinen. Michael Schumacher 2nd, David Coulthard 3rd, Eddie Irvine 4th, the same way they line up in the driver's standings. Heinz-Harald Frentzen 5th for Williams, and a point for Benetton and Giancarlo Fisichella. Alexander Wirtz, Jacques Villeneuve all on the lead lap. Damon Hill 1 lap back with John Alesi. Rubens Barrichello, Olivier Panis, Jos Verstappen, Mika Salo, Shinji Nakano, and Tiger Takagi running at the finish. Esteban Tuero classed as a finisher by completing enough laps.
Well, not long to go to one more race, and that'll be it. That was Mika Hakkinen's wife. They're looking very excited. She supported him so well all year, and my goodness, he's needed it lately. He's been under a lot of pressure, and he hasn't really shown it. But there today, the car came through really strong. I think McLaren and Mercedes really got it together, and of course, Ferrari just weren't quite there, were they?
Not quite today. Both championships will be decided in Japan. McLaren needed to leave here with 16 over Ferrari to clinch. They are 15 ahead. Williams opened up a point on Benetton, who is now 2 points ahead of Jordan. They came in a point apart to today's race. The Drivers' Championship has Mika Hakkinen now opening up a lead over Michael Schumacher of 4 points. David Coulthard is secure in third. Eddie Irvine cannot overtake. He's locked in fourth. Jacques Villeneuve, Alexander Wirtz, and Damon Hill, they are tied at 17 points. When we go to Japan in 5 weeks' time, live on Fox Sports Net, Mika Hakkinen will win the championship unless there are two scenarios. If Michael Schumacher wins in Japan and Hakkinen finishes third or worse, Michael will be the champion on points. If Schumacher finishes second and Hakkinen is sixth or worse, Schumacher will be the champion on points. But Hakkinen's win today mean that he would win all tiebreakers.
But it's going to be very, very vital that they get out there and do a lot of testing before this next race. They've got 4 weeks. A lot of work is going to be done.
Constructors' National Anthem for McLaren.
Well, it's going to be pretty tough for these guys for the next 5 weeks, or certainly 4 weeks. With all the testing that's got to go on, they've also got to contend with the fact they've got a major time change going all the way to Japan, and of course the culture change and the food change and everything like that, and it's really very tough in Japan. I've obviously done a lot of races there myself, and it sort of to bring that World Championship to a final point, a final act there is very hard on the drivers and on the teams. They have to move everything out there, and of course they've got to get it perfected in Europe long before they go. They can't just test and whip off there overnight.
Well, now that most of the driver changes have been solidified for next season, now the rumor mill is swirling about next year's schedule. There's a possibility the season could start in the Far East, Australia, Malaysia, and Japan, and end here in the Western Hemisphere with Canada and the South American races. That would change all that. But for now, I would agree it's going to be a tall order, and where are they going? Well, Schumacher's left alone there with his bottle of champagne.
Hakkinen is determined to get Ron Dennis really, really wet. Michael Schumacher said, let's get him as he comes back around here.
This looks like the clock in the square at Munich where the figurines go round and round. Oh, Schumacher's saving that bottle of champagne. Where's Mika? All right, we'll be right back with the press conference among the podium finishers after this. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Luxembourg. Let's see if we have a relieved Mika Hakkinen, who has taken the lead in the Drivers' Championship.
First place in Luxembourg Grand Prix, Michael Schumacher second, and David Coulthard third. Mika, you came here equal on points with Michael, so it must be a fantastic result for you.
Yes, it is. It certainly makes my situation a little bit different than it was a couple hours ago. So to winning this Grand Prix, it obviously gives us advantage for the championship, and it just gives more motivation for the team to prepare the car even better for the next Grand Prix, the final Grand Prix.
Now, in the early part of the race, you were running third behind Eddie Irvine, but Michael was escaping up the road. How worried were you at that point?
I don't know if we can use the word worried. I mean, it is just a situation what you have to accept and try to maximize your car, maximize your speed and yourself, and to try to gain that places back if you can. If you cannot, then you just have to try to do best what you can. And I was not too worried. I was just pushing, and I mean, the race was only in the start. I mean, we did just 5-6 laps, and I knew, you know, if I keep pushing, you never know what tactics Ferrari was running. So you just have to keep pushing, you know, and keeping the pressure. And Eddie actually, when he was leading at one point, he made a small mistake in a chicane, and it gave the opportunity to Michael to overtake. I don't think it was anything, it just went wide. And then when he dropped second and I was running behind him, he had some kind of problem with the car, I think. He was just all over the place in the corners, and it just gave me the opportunity just to overtake him.
Now, when you came into for your first pit stop, you were in second place, but you emerged just ahead of Michael in the lead. You then pushed very hard. How much risk were you taking?
It's very strange. I mean, when you drive flat out, you don't, and you go maximum around the corners, you don't think there's risks. You don't think you're taking risks. I mean, you just drive in maximum, putting car on the limit. I mean, I think you don't have to take risks. I think everything more or less is very much controlled that we do out on the track, and there is no risks. Only risk is if something goes wrong and you go off because of that.
Michael, now you started on pole position, which was the best place to start, but Eddie Irvine beat you away. Was that a Ferrari tactic?
No, it wasn't a Ferrari tactic. I was slightly behind into the first corner next to him, and if I wanted I could have tried the outside, but I didn't see a reason, because I knew later on there will be the opportunity to go ahead of Eddie, and so I just accepted the situation perfectly. Mika was behind myself, and as Mika said before, he made a mistake in the chicane, so I got past him, and after that the situation was nice and good. But this stage tyres started to go away a little bit, and I couldn't push as hard as I wanted. As well, the balance wasn't perfectly right. We adapted it for the last stint, where the car was a bit better, but still not enough. I mean, we have to accept we weren't fast enough in the race.
But when Mika emerged ahead of you after his first stop, did Ross Brawn try and change your tactics for later in the race, so perhaps you could come out ahead after your second stop?
No, after then the tactic was decided anyway. I mean, I was a bit surprised that he was able to get in front of me. There was about a 5-second lead before I came into the pits, and I don't know how many laps he stayed out longer than myself. But I was believing it will be enough, even so I knew it's going to be tight, but I thought it's going to be enough, and as you saw, he just took the little bit, and he got in front of me. Saying that at the second stop, if I would have kept him behind me the first stop, there would have been a chance for him to get by at the second stop. So overall, we have, as I said before, we have to accept we weren't fast enough for that race. So about 4 or 5 weeks time for testing, and we're going to use that.
Now, looking ahead to the final round, obviously you have to outscore Mika by more than 4 points. What have you got planned for between now and then?
We're going to test quite a lot. We will have a heavy program, as I guess everyone will have, those guys and ourselves. So it's going to be another race within the next 4 weeks to see who wins that for Suzuka, to be prepared in the best way. We'll try. I mean, we are very close. If not, then we still have enough reasons to be very happy of our achievements, and I believe we still can be proud of ourselves.
OK, Michael, we'll find out at Suzuka.
Thank you.
David, third place. On the grid, we noticed that McLaren were putting extra fuel in the cars. Was that a late call?
No, that was always part of part of our plan to decide on what was happening with the weather, and then to finalise the fuel on the grid. So that you can only put such a little amount on the grid anyway that it's not a big difference.
And how much before the race were you confident that it would stay dry throughout? That was the talk in warm-up this morning, that it might rain this afternoon.
Well, the weather forecast we had was that it was going to be dry, and you have to believe something, so you may as well believe in your forecast. And irrespective of what was going to happen later in the race, it was clear it was a dry start, so that's all you can react to, and you certainly wouldn't set your car up anything different than a dry setup.
Back to you, Mika, now, finally. Approaching Suzuka, the finale. I believe testing next week. Are you going to Barcelona, is that correct?
Yes, we have testing coming up. Looking forward to go there, and yes, we have tests coming up. And going to Suzuka, obviously, it's going to be great. I think it's going to be really interesting to go there. And like Michael said, whatever happened, I think everybody has done a great achievements and great fight this year. But I'm looking forward certainly, and just want to say one thing. I just want to also say the great job from Mario Ilien, and I mean, we raced here last year, and David and me we were first and second running comfortably, and we failed. And this year, I think Mercedes and Mario Ilien showed they can fix problems and they can be the best. And today they showed that, and I'm glad it happened here. Really good job.
Okay, congratulations.
So it's on to Japan, which you'll see live here on Fox Sports Net. We'll be right back to take a look ahead to the final race of the season after this. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Luxembourg, where Mika Hakkinen leads all categories. He's led twice as many laps as Michael Schumacher and leads in race wins 7-6. He would win all tiebreaker situations if the championship ends up being tied. Well, in 5 weeks' time, you'll see it live here on Fox Sports Net, the Grand Prix of Japan, to decide the Formula One World Championship. Saturday night, October 31st, 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, 7:30 Pacific. Will it be trick or treat for Mika Hakkinen? And tonight at 10 every night, Fox Sports News Prime Time, covering your hometown teams with all the breaking stories 7 nights a week. We are there.
Well, there you got McLaren showing that they have got the class of the field out there dominating today. Ferrari must be wondering what they got to do for Michael to win that title.
Schumacher must win or finish second. Hakkinen must have a bad day for Schumacher to prevail, or Mika Hakkinen will become the second Finnish driver to win a world championship.
It certainly would be outstanding for Mika Hakkinen, one must admit. He's deserved it off that terrible accident in Australia only 2 years ago.
So for Derek Bell and Peter Windsor, Mike Joy congratulating Mika Hakkinen, winner of the Grand Prix of Luxembourg, and he retakes the lead in the Drivers' Championship with 1 race to go. See you in 5 weeks from Japan.